Today we are going to discuss a few important concepts related to Docker. So in our last session, we have discussed how to create an image, Docker image from our ASP.NET Core VPA project. And then we have also discussed how to create a container from that image and run the application. So in that application, few things went wrong. What things went wrong? Let us try to understand first of all. So first of all, what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you, for example, this is our project. And in this project, we have created the Docker file and the Docker ignore file. So now let us first build the image, create the container, run the application, and try to understand what went wrong. So for creating an image, what you need to do? First open the PowerShell, Windows PowerShell or command prompt, whatever it may be. What is the second step? Second step is you need to go to the project folder which contains your Docker file. So in this case, the Docker file is being available within this location. Right? So you can see D, my project, product management API, product management API. So for creating a Docker image, what you need to do, you need to go to that project file itself. So let me first go to the project file, not this one. So I have to use cd command. So now I am inside the project folder which contains the Docker file. So you have to go to this folder if you want to create the Docker image. So once you have inside this folder, right? Next, what you need to do, you need to build the Docker image. How to build the Docker image? The syntax is Docker build, and here, right? A T means you have to give a name for your image. So any name you can give. So here, what I'm doing. Now, please, so before running this command, ensure your Docker desktop is running and ensure this Docker engine is running. If this is not running or if you have not opened the Docker desktop, then this command, whatever I'm going to execute, it will not work. So first of all, ensure your Docker desktop is running. Then go to the project folder where your Docker file is available and then build the Docker image. Docker build and whatever the name you want to give, you can name. Dot means the current repository. I mean this path from where, right, it will going to be, right, I mean it will go to the this folder path, that is the meaning of this dot. And from that folder path, it will read the Docker file, Docker ignore file, and it will start building the image. So just press the enter button. So once you press the enter button, it will start creating the image. What that Docker image is going to contain? Everything. Everything means right, what should be required for running the application in a different environment, right? Starting from right runtime environment, everything is going to be there. So once you create the Docker image, next what you need to do, you need to run the Docker image. Right, running the Docker image means what? We need to create a container from that image. So that container is going to be what I can exactly say. Container is nothing but a running instance of an image, or you can say image is nothing but a class. Object is going to be the Docker. So class is itself available, but we cannot use the class. If you want to use the properties and a method defined inside that class, you need to create an instance. Similarly, image Docker image itself is useless. So if you want to use the Docker image, so in that case, you need to create an instance of that image, Docker image. That instance technically called as, right, what? Technically called as a Docker container. So now let us proceed and create the container. Let me show you this command first. So Docker run, it is going to, so this Docker run command, it is going to do two things. First of all, it will create the container, then it is going to run the container. Two things, start the container and run the container. And slash hyphen D means this is going to run the container in the detached mode. You in the UI or in the console, you will not see anything. That is going to happen right in the background. So this is going to be the unique name for your Docker, right, in your local machine, right? This name must be unique. So this is going to be my container name. This is my host port and this is my right container port. So the from the UI, from the client, as a client, I can access the application using this URL. And when I access this URL, internally Docker will transfer that to this URL, and this is the internal port number on which our application is running. And we are running the application in the development environment. And so that, right, why I'm running the application in the development environment? Because I can show you the Swagger. And then, right, and then finally, uh, this Docker container is going to be created, right? From which image? I mean, what is the Docker image? This is the Docker image. And if you want to see what all images are available, so you can write this command, Docker images. So currently you can see only one image is available. And using that image, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the container. So let me run this read command in the console. So this should create the container. And once the container is created, now what you can do is you can access that container using the port number, whatever the host port number. So in our case, what is the host port number? 8085. So now you can run the application using 8085 port number. So how to run the application? Let us try to observe. Right. So how to run the application? The application is going to be run on this port number. So let me go ahead. HTTPS. So this is the, what is that port number we provided? I think not 8500. It is going to be 8085. And then Sagar endpoint. Now if you look at this health endpoint, it is working fine. That is absolutely fine. But if you look at the product, this is not working, some error is occurring, right? What is that error? If you want to see, right, you can view the log file, right? How to view the log, guys? What is the command, right? What is the command to view the log file?
Docker logs is that.
Docker logs.
Docker, right? So then I forgot the syntax. Let me copy some of that. Okay, so this is the command, right? Docker logs, and whatever your container name, that what you need to provide. So now if you click on this button, right now you can see this is what it is showing. That is some SQL connection related issues, and this is what it is showing in the UI. Because if you go to the app settings.json file, we have enabled this console logger. So this console logger is fine. But what about if I close this? I mean, if we close this window, or if we stop the container, then this log, whatever it is displaying here, they are going to be automatically deleted. And to avoid such kind of things, right, we want some permanent location where the log should store. And for that purpose, we are using file logging. So now what I need to show you is, right, how you can view the file logs and how you can ensure, most importantly, how to provide the configuration for the SQL connection. Because currently, if you look at this, the major problem what we are getting here, if you go to the app settings development, we are providing the server instance name. We are using this trusted connection true. So this is not going to be work with the Docker. So now what I'm going to discuss, right, right, with our current project setup, what went wrong, how we can do the configuration as per the industry standard. So in the previous chapter, or you can see in our last session, or just we just developed the containerized application and ran it inside a container, right? So that container started properly, the API become accessible from the browser and Swagger. But in a real project, just starting the container is not enough. After containerization, right? So we need to check two things. What are the things? If the API start, then the database should work as expected. If the database is not working, why it is not working? And secondly, we want proper logging mechanism. So we cannot store the log file always in the console window, right? We need some file-based access. So for this purpose, right, what we are going to do, we are going to provide two right configurations. I mean, how we can properly configure this connection string and how we can properly configure the logging. So this is what we are going to discuss. So currently, This is our connection string. So this is going to be our connection string where we provided the server name, where we provided the database name, trusted connection true. Can anybody tell me what do you mean by trusted connection true? What type of authentication is this? Is this a SQL authentication or Windows authentication?
Windows.
Windows.
Windows. And this is nothing but your server instance name, right? Whenever you are installing SQL Server, you have to provide one instance name, and this is the instance name. And currently, this is working. Why? Because we are running the application in the Windows machine, and it is the local instance means, right? Local instance and Windows machine and local SQL Server instance. That resolution is going to happening automatically. And Windows authentication, it is also working. Currently, Docker, whatever we are running that Docker in a Linux machine. So that Docker means what? We are enabling the Windows Linux-based system, right? WSL. That means what? That operating system is going to be Linux. And currently, the Docker running our application in a Linux machine. Does Linux know how that Windows authentication is working? Completely not. 100% it will not work. Why? Windows authentication is only for Windows machine, not for a Linux machine. And secondly, whatever the instance name we are providing, Windows can resolve this one, not Linux. So for Linux to work, what we need to do? We need some different kind of a connection. That connection, whatever we are going to provide, whether you run in Linux machine, it will work. And if you run it Windows machine, that is also going to be work. So the major problem is these two things. So this instance, whatever we provided, that cannot be resolved automatically. And within Windows authentication is also not acceptable by right to whom. It is not going to be acceptable by Linux. So these are the two current scenario. I mean, these are the two issues which restrict Docker to communicate with the right database. Clear? What are the two problems currently we have with our connection string? One is the server name, whatever you provided, that cannot be resolved automatically by Linux. And secondly, Windows authentication is never going to be work with a Linux machine. And the Docker, what we are using here, or Docker basically means it is going to run the application in a Linux-based environment. Clear? Clear or not?
Yes, yes.
Right. So how we can overcome this problem? So first of all, check whether your SQL Server right is working or not. So first of all, ensure, right? So suppose, guys, remember, whenever you are figuring out SQL is not working, then what are the things you need to take into consideration? First of all, check whether your SQL Server database is up and running or not. So if SQL is running, then we can further check other related things. So let me go with this one. Let me go with this Windows authentication and connect. So that means if we are successfully logging to the SQL Server database, and if you see this product management DB, that means what? That means our SQL database is up and running. Second thing is what you need to remember, if you want to work with Docker, first ensure Windows authentication is fine, but SQL Server authentication should be enabled. Basically, what exactly it means? See, whenever you are installing SQL Server, you can authenticate the user in two ways. Either you can use Windows authentication, where only Windows credential is required to access the database, no other things. And another one is mixed mode. So Windows mode means what? Only Windows authentication, right? Only Windows. And the mixed mode means what? Both, right? Windows and SQL Server authentication. So first of all, what you need to do? First of all, you need to ensure that your Windows, I mean your database support both Windows and SQL Server. Most importantly, that what you need to check. Sir, how I can do this checking? Now, first of all, connect it to your management studio, right? For example, this is my database, I mean server. Right click in the server in the object explorer, click properties, go to the security page. Now look for the server authentication. So let us proceed and understand this thing. Right click on your right click on the server. So in this case, this is my server. Right click, Go to the security tab, not the security. What is that tab? Properties, sorry. Properties. Go to the security tab and share. If Windows authentication is there, please select this SQL Server authentication. I mean SQL Server and Windows. So this is Windows mode and this is a mix mode. Mix mode means what? You can use Windows credential as well as SQL Server authentication. So what is a Windows authentication? We know, right? Using the logged in instance, we can log in. So what is SQL Server? For SQL Server authentication, you need to provide the user ID and the password. Windows authentication means your Windows credential. Once you log into the system, that's it. SQL Server authentication means you have to provide a right user ID and password. So please ensure this SQL Server and Windows authentication mode is selected, right? So this is the first step. Clear? This step is clear,
Yes.
right? So once the authentication is there, right? That's what you need to do. If you have not selected this one, for example, Windows authentication is all there. Now you can change this to SQL Server and Windows authentication mode. But once you make the changes, immediately it will not work, guys. Immediately it will not work. Then what you need to do? You need to restart the SQL Server service. Sir, how I can do the restart? Now for that purpose, open the services, right? You can open the services window and there look for the SQL Server. So this is my SQL Server. Two instances are running. Forget about this older one. This is the SQL Server 2022 dev. So this is what I am using here, right? You can see SQL Server 2022 dev. This is my SQL Server. So that instance, right, that service you need to check here. What you need to do? You need to restart this one. So once you change from Windows authentication to mixed mode authentication, you have to refresh the service. Until and unless you have not refreshed, this will not take effect. Clear? Clear or
Yes.
not?
Yes. Yes.
Right. So once you enable SQL Server authentication, I mean once you enable that mix mode, then what you need to do, you need to create a user, right? You need to create a user. So why? Because right, so trusted connection true. This is Windows authentication. Now I don't want to use Windows authentication. I want to use SQL Server authentication where I need to provide the user ID and password. So something like this. So if you want to provide the user ID and password, then what you need to do? You need to create a new user, right? Sir, how I can create a new user in SQL Server SSMS? So basically, right, in the database tab, right, go to the security. So in Windows authentication, so this is database, this is security. And in the security tab, you will see login. So in the logins folder, whatever all user are there, you will find. And if you want, you can create a new login. Suppose I'm creating a new login. Suppose I'm creating a new login, right? I'm giving the name as a test user. Any name you can give. And here you need to select a SQL Server authentication. Password, you can give anything, right? A test user at the rate 123. Test user at the rate 123. Password I provided. So please unselect this one. Enforce password policy means what? Now once you logged in, later it will ask you to reset the password, right? It will allow forcefully it ask you to reset the password. So that's what I don't want. So once you provide this thing, right? Next, what you need to do, you need to go to the server roles. In the server roles, if you want to create this user as a admin, you can select this SYS admin and then user mapping. If you want to give this user to some limited database, right? For example, I only want to give one database, two database, three database, and within that database, right, what the user is allowed to do. Currently it is a admin, so you can see everything is on selected means he can do. For example, I'm selecting here product management DB. So inside this DB, what operation he can do, right? That's what you can provide here. And this is optional and that's it. So for simply, if you provide the username SQL authentication mode, server role, you can give sysadmin, that's it. click on the OK button. So why I'm getting this test user already exists, right? So this user is already exist. That is the reason why it is not allowing, right? So what I'm going to give you a test user 2 and click on this OK button. So text user 2. So that is what it is saying. Now let us try to run the login, right, using this test user 2 account. So open this one. Now select SQL Server authentication. Give this name as a test user 2. Password is going to be test user @123 and click on the connect button. So you can see currently it is logged. So in my case, what I have done so far is I have created a user called a Docker user. The password what I provided is Docker user @123. So now if you view, so this one, okay, let me disconnect this one. So now if you go to this one, so this Docker user already created. Password I have already provided, server role I have already provided. So this is the user that what I'm going to use throughout the session. Clear how to create a user, how to provide the role, right? How you can give access to database and in each database, what type of operations the user can perform. This is what you can manage while creating the user. Clear, guys?
Yes.
Right. So now you can test, right, whether you are able to log in. So what I'm doing here, now I just stop this one, restart, open this one and verify whether that Docker user what we created that is working or not. Okay. So now I have to provide the username as a Docker user. So no space. There should not be any space. And the password is going to be Docker @123. So now you can see I'm able to log in using the SQL Server authentication. So now if you want to view the data, you can also perform this select operation to see the data. So let me go to the product management DB. So this is going to be product management DB. And here I can execute and I am able to access the data. That's it. So once you enable the SQL Server authentication, and once you create a SQL user with the user ID and password, next, right, what you need to do, you have to enable TCP IP. So one important point, guys, you have to remember. We need to ensure SQL Server should accept a TCP/IP connection. This is extremely important because Docker container connect to SQL Server using network protocol, not Windows style shortcuts. In Windows, you are providing that what I can say machine name and automatically it is resolving everything, right? But with Docker, it is going to make use of a TCP/IP protocol, right? Transfer control protocol. So using this network protocol, it is going to communicate, right? Docker is going to communicate to right, connect with the SQL Server database. So for this to work, right, right. So what exactly it means? In order to do this thing, first of all, you need to ensure that the TCP/IP protocol is enabled for the SQL Server instance. For example, right, if you are working with the 2017, that instance is going to be this one. For 2019, that SQL Server instance is this one. And for 2022, the instance is going to be this one. So what you need to do, now open the run command, right, run window. So open the run window. So this is going to be run window. Just to type this SQL Server Manager 16.mh. This is going to open the connection manager, right? SQL Server Configuration Manager. So this is going to be the SQL Server Configuration Manager. Here you can see all the instances that are whatever available that is going to be listed here. That's fine. So now what you need to do, we need to expand the SQL Server network connection and we need to click protocols for this one, right? So basically here you can see SQL Server network configuration. So basically this TCP/IP, it is part of a network configuration. So here you can see SQL Server network configuration, just expand. And for here, we need to set the protocol for your instance. So this is my older version of SQL Server instance. Not, I'm not communicating with this one. This is the version right, to which I need to convey. And currently you can say TCP IP is enabled. If it is enabled, that is fine. If it is not enabled, let's assume currently it is in disable mode. So what you need to do? You need to enable this one. Clear? So this is nothing but enabling TCP/IP communication for this SQL Server instance, so that from outside we can also communicate using the protocol instead of using the instance name. So what exactly it means? It means we are not going to communicate right to the database using this service instance name. We'll provide something else. Right? And for that to work, we need to enable that TCP IP for that SQL Server instance should be enabled so that it can right, handle the request. Clear? Clear this part?
Yes, yes.
So once you enable this thing, right, next what you need to do, right, you need to set a fixed TCP port number, right, for SQL Server. So basically, using what port number the client, right, client application can communicate with the database. So for that purpose, you need to provide a specific port number. Let assume we are going with this 1433. So how you can do this thing? Again, in the same SQL Server Configuration Manager, open protocols, right, for this one, right? Right click on TCP IP and then select properties. Right? So basically, in this case, right click on this TCP. So we are in the right configuration manager. Go to network configuration protocol. Right click on this and select properties. So once you click on this properties tab, go to the IP addresses. And in the IP addresses, go down and here you will find something called IP all. So in the IP all, first of all, if anything is there, this dynamic ports, please remove this. Dynamic port, we are not going to accept. We are not going to generate any dynamic port. So please remove this. And in the TCP port, set the port number, whatever you want to use. For example, I want to access, right, the database, SQL Server database using this TCP IP port. So that port number you need to specify here. Clear? So you have to go to this properties tab and you have to specify. So click OK. So basically what exactly it means? It means now we enable TCP IP connection for our SQL Server instance and the client can access the database using the port number 1433. Clear? Clear or not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So once you do this thing, next what you need to do, once you have done these changes, right? Next you have to restart your SQL Server instance. Anytime you make any changes, you have to restart the services. Otherwise, it will not work. So in this case, this is my SQL Server instance. Just a restart. Okay. So once it is restart, right? That's it. But again, one more thing you have to remember. So this TCP IP port we enable, but my application, my machine configuration should allow that one. Sir, what do you mean by this? So basically, in our Windows firewall, we should ensure that this port number is not going to be blocked. So if this firewall is not allowing this port number, then no one can communicate with my application. So firewall means what? We need to create a rule, and in that rule we need to specify on which port number, right? I mean, please allow this port number so that right the client can access the database. So we enable the port number, we specify that TCP/IP connection is enabled, but until and unless firewall, if the firewall is going to block the request, then they cannot communicate with the database. So enabling the right TCP/IP protocol, setting the port number is fine, but at the same time, we also need to ensure that the Windows Defender firewall should allow this protocol. So how you can do this thing? Now for this purpose, right, open the run window. How to open the Windows Firewall Defender? Now, then type wf.msc. This is going to open the Windows Firewall. Then press the enter button. So this is going to be my Windows Firewall. In the inbound rules, what we need to do, right? You can see all these things. Whatever right applications or whatever website it is allowed, whatever website it is not allowed, right? Everything is going to be there. And in this case, right, I have already created one, right, what I can say, uh, rule to allow that particular port number. So let me show you, right, what is that port number, right? I have given a unique name for my SQL Server port 1433. So let me first go to that one. So let me SQL Server.
It is in the top side.
Sorry,
Top side.
top. Yeah. So this is the port number, right? So now let me delete this one so that I can create this one more time. So now how to create a firewall setting which should allow your application to access on that particular port number. So basically here you can see inbound rule. So once you select the inbound rule, here right click new rule. Otherwise you can also click on this new rule button. So click on this new rule. So once you click on this new rule, right? So what exactly you want to set? I want to set the port number. Select the port. Click next. So once you select this, you want to specify, does this rule apply to TCP or UDP? TCP. Specific local port, yes. What is that port number, guys? 1433, right? We have said na, right, that port number 1433. Yes or no?
Yes.
Right, 1433. That is the SQL Server port number we have already set in the SQL Server configuration manager. Next, click on the next button. Allow, right? What you need to do, what action should be taken? Do you want to allow? Do you want to block? Okay, allow the connection. Select this one. Click on the next button. So does this rule apply to domain, private, public, everything, right? Whether it is a public network, private network, right? Domain, any for every network it will applicable. Then click on the next button. Then it is asking you to provide a name for your rule so that later you can easily identify. I'm providing that name as this one. So now click on the finish button. So now it should created one SQL Server port. You can see this is the port. Currently it is running, and this port is basically going to allow the TCP access on the port number 1433. Clear? Clear or not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now what I need to do is, now currently how I'm logging to the database. Currently I'm using this is to log into the database. So this is SQL Server instance name. Now instead of a SQL Server instance name, what I want to use, I want to use the port number. So now please replace this one. This is 1433 SQL Server authentication, and the user is going to be Docker user. And and the password what we provided right while creating the user is this one. So with this it should work. It is not working. Oh, you have to give a comma. I have provided this one. It should be a comma. Okay, now click on the connect button. Now it is connected. Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
So instead of using this, you can provide this one, or you can provide your local IP address, right? 127.0.0.1. So now is that clear, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Now Now, what I need to do instead of using this connection string where I have to specify the right host name, where I need to use the trusted connection string. Now I can use this one. So let us proceed and see whether this connection string is going to be work or not. So this is going to be my connection string. So now you can see I have specified so host.docker.internal 1433. So this is what I need to provide, right, when I'm going to use, right. For example, right, if you are using from Windows machine, you can provide this one, laptop, whatever the, yeah, yeah, this name. And from outside host, right, this is the data that what you need to put host.docker.internal 1433. So basically, this allows the container to reach your host Windows machine on this port number. So this is the port number that SQL Server instance is running on. So this is the user ID and password that what I have to provided. And the trusted certificate, this is for the right secure communication. So what we provided these things host.docker.internal. So this is what Docker is going to make sure, right, so that right ensure that the server is reachable on this port number. So with these changes, next what I need to do, right, I can write pass the connections to string to the Docker container. So this is fine. Now let me run this one whether it is working, right, what I can say in the local machine or not. So this health check is working fine. Now come to this product. Is this going to work? Yes, it is working, right? So that's fine. So now what next we need to do? Now we need to build the image. Now we need to do the same thing one more time. So let us proceed and do the same thing, right? Currently, okay, let me, this is our window. Okay, close this one. Now how many, now we have Docker images. So these are the Docker images. So what I need to do, I need to build the Docker image one more time. So how I can do this thing? So let me first stop this one, stop this one. Now let me go ahead and build the Docker image. So once I build, so what will happen? Now whatever the local Docker image it is stored, it will update that Docker image with the updated code. So anytime, every time you do some changes to your application code, you can rebuild it a Docker image so that the latest changes they are going to be available within the Docker image. Now, if you look at this one, right, currently one container is in running state. So I cannot directly remove that container. So first of all, I need to stop the container and then I need to remove the container. So I want to create a new container. So let me first stop this one and then create, remove this one. So currently, right, if you open this one Docker PS, so there is no container currently. So now, once the container is deleted, now I need to, right, what I can say, create the container. And for creating the container, what information I'm going to provide, please observe. So Docker run, this is the command we have already understand. This is for creating and running the container. -d means what, guys? It is going to run the container in the detached mode. Name means what, guys? This is the name of your container. And P 8085 and 8081 means what? Host mapping. So port, red port mapping. This is our external port and this is our internal port of the Docker container where our application is running. This is E for environment variable. So it is setting the environment as a development so that my application is going to be run in the development environment. And here I'm providing the connection string. So this connection string hyphen hyphen default connection. Why I'm providing in this format? So in this case, right, by default, what is going to be that this is the connection string. And within the connection string, this is the default section. So that what you need to specify, right? Whenever you are using environment variable with two underscores. So connection string, this is the top layer. This is what hyphen, sorry, underscore, underscore. This is the key name. And to this one, what I provided my connection string. So this is my connection string. And finally, this is going to be the right name of your Docker image. So for example, if you see what is the Docker image's name, click, and this is going to the Docker image. See, if here you can see, you might have one question, sir, here latest is there, but we are not providing latest, then how it is working? By default, it will add that latest. Whenever we are going to create a different version, V1, V2, V3, at that time I'm going to keep focus on this one. But for now, just remember, this is by default, it is going to take the latest one. Clear? So what are the things we are passing? Is that clear?
Actually, why we are providing the connection string? I mean, when we updated the connection string in the project, I mean, our application file.
See, basically what happening,
Mhm.
now we generally not store the connection string in the
Mhm.
app settings.json file. For example, if we store here, and if you want to run the application in a different environment, how you can do this thing?
Okay.
This is hard coded. So
Yes.
if I'm running the application in a production environment, how I
Mhm.
can provide? I can just update here.
Okay. Got it. Thanks.
And if I'm not providing, then whatever is there, that will come into the picture.
Yeah.
So now what I'm doing, I'm going to run this one. So once you run the application, now please check whether that is working or not. So this is my health endpoint. Is this working? Yes, working. And this is my API product. Is this working? It should work. Clear?
Sir, if you're not providing the connection string, it will take from app settings.json automatic.
Not app settings.json, whatever the environment use provided. It will be from app settings.development.json. Because
Oh,
in app settings, we are not providing the connection string.
okay. So if you mention their production, then it will take from that file, no? Production.json.
Yes.
Okay, there. Okay.
But in this case, that doesn't make any sense. Whatever you provided environment, that will not come into the picture. So if you remember earlier, we have already discussed, if something is defined in the app setting, something is defined in the environment variable will take the priority. In this case, 100%, this is what it will make into consideration while running the content. Clear?
Can you
Clear,
run
guys?
without giving that connection string?
Yeah, that is absolutely fine without providing the connection string. You can also run the application. Let us see this one. So for that purpose, what I need to do first of all, this is what I don't want to provide, right? Clear? Right. So what I need to do? Guys, tell me. First of all, I need to
Stop the container and then remove.
stop the container. Then you have to remove the container, and then you have to run this command. Right? Once you run the command, again, come to this part. And this health endpoint, definitely it will work. And coming to this product, it should work. I'm getting the data as expected. Clear?
Yeah, okay,
And
sir.
in this, it is taking the connection string from the development environment. Clear?
Yes.
Okay. That is absolutely fine. So now you can test and all these things. Right? If database is fail, right, and if something is there wrong, how you can verify? So for that purpose, you need to use a log. For example, this is the statement Docker logs, and whatever your container name, that what you need to provide. So this is the log statement, and this is the log statement means what? Now in our case, we have enabled file logging and console logging. For console logging, whatever the logging statement we have written here, they are going to be displayed in the console window. That is absolutely fine. But now managing the login file location in Docker. See, if you are providing, we have already made that changes. Here, if you are providing something like C colon D colon something like C drive, D drive, right, then it will not work. So currently we have removed that one. But for example, earlier we provided, right, D drive slash home slash logger logs like this. So if you mention the drive information here, whether C drive, D drive, then this Docker will not work. Why? Because this C drive, D drive, this is available in Windows. For example, this is what we provided earlier. So this is a Windows-based scenarios. Means when in Windows we have D drive, we have home log file, all these things. Is this available in a Linux machine? That a drive functionality?
No, no.
No. Then definitely it will not work in a Docker. If it is not available in Linux, means it will not work in a Docker. So for that purpose, what we need to do, we need to specify instead of providing something like this drive information, you can remove that one and you can simply specify the folder location. Whatever you are running right directory, inside that directory, it is going to create the log. Later also, if you want that directory to be mapped to some local folder, that is also possible. So let us try to understand this thing first of all. So this is what it is going to display in the Docker container. That is fine. Now, how to view the log file? So this is the right console log. So now instead of a console log, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the file log. So how you can verify the files. So for this purpose, how to open the files in the container, right? To open Windows PowerShell. This Windows PowerShell, it is not needed to be the same path where your Docker file is going to be there. See, for building the image, this path is important. If I'm going to build the Docker image, I have to go to this folder location. But once the Docker image is built, later on, it is not mandatory. For example, now can I run this command and is it going to work Docker images? Yes, it will work. Can I run this command and I show how many right containers are running? Yes, it will work. So only you need to go to that folder location when you are going to build the image, because from the Docker file, it is going to build a image. Later on, whatever all operation you are going to perform, it can be any folder. So now what I'm going to do is I will show you how to view the log file. So basically to view the log file, what I need to do, I have to execute this command, right? So once here you can see Docker execute. So whatever IT product, product management API container.sh. What exactly this one? Now this means, right, PowerShell will connect connect you inside the container. So now you are no longer working in a normal Windows folder. You are now inside the container itself. So basically what exactly this statement means, now the Windows PowerShell will communicate with the container. So let us first of all do this thing. So this is nothing but communicating, right? My Windows PowerShell is connected to the container. So that is what it is showing. This hash means it is working. Hash means you are inside the container. So once you execute this command will take you inside the container. So whatever the folder directives, right, available within the container, now you can access them. Clear?
Yeah, okay.
So basically this statement means it will take you from your Windows PowerShell to the container, I mean the working directory of the container. And within that directory, whatever all files and folders are there, you can access. So now if you look at this, so this is app/log. So this is the folder where my log file should be stored. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Right. So now what I need to do, cd app/log. So please go to that. So basically what exactly it means, whatever is your current working directory, inside that directory, within the container, it will create a folder app, within that folder this, and within that folder that file is going to be created. So once we inside this one, right, Docker container, next what we need to do, we need to go to that folder path. It is not opening. Right, how to go to that file? Now cd app/log. So now type cd app/log, press enter. Again you are getting the hash, means it is success. So once you are inside, just type ls, and this is going to display the list of files within that folder. Now type ls. So within this folder, right, within app.logs, there is a file called this one, my app log, whatever your current date.txt. So now if you want to open that file content, then what you need to do, you have to type this cat and whatever your file name. So for example, currently only one file is going to be there, cat and whatever your file name, that what you need to pass here. So cat and whatever your file name. So this command is going to display the log. So currently within this file, these are the log informations available. So that is still right. What I can say, this is still showing in the console window. Am I right? Yes or no? We are displaying the log,
Yeah.
but from this file, but still again inside the console window. So once we right with this approach, what is the problem? Now once your container is removed or stopped, these informations are going to be lost. So what I want a persistent log file. So persistent log file means what? Even the container is stopped or removed, my log file should be available. So let us understand how we can do this thing. First of all, let me stop the container and right do whatever. Let me first stop the container and then remove the container. Container is removed. So once this is done, next what I need to do, I need to provide the file mapping. So file mapping means what? Now this docker run command is clear to everybody, T is clear to everybody, name is already clear, environment variable is also clear. So now what is important? Important is this one. So this is what we have already discussed. So now, so volume mapping. So volume mapping means what? Now this particular settings, whatever right we are providing here, volume mapping means what? Now it will map the files, whatever files going to be created inside this app/logs within the container to our local directory. So in the local directory, so for example, D drive. So let me go to the D drive. So this is my local PC, D drive. What is the directory? Docker logs product management API. So go to the Docker logs folder, product management API. Let me delete this file first. So this one. So basically what exactly it means, now whatever the files are going to be created inside app/logs, they are also going to be available within this directory on your local machine. So what exactly it means, left side folder on your Windows machine, right side folder inside the container. So in this case, this is going to be on your machine, and within this machine, this file, whatever the file is going to be created inside this folder, they are going to be available. Clear or not?
And here, what V indicates, sir?
Which one?
-V.
Volume,
Okay, okay, okay.
right? So now let me go ahead and run this command. So let me do this thing. Okay. So once this is done, now let me write access some endpoint so that log file should generate. So this is one log file and execute this one. Now come to this one. So this file is generated. Okay, open this one. So this is the log. It is being right stored. Clear?
Yep.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Yep.
These are the two things, right? That what you need to understand. So once this is done, next important thing that what we are going to discuss is managing Docker images in Azure Container Registry. This is what we need to understand. See, till now what we discussed, till now, we discussed how Docker solved the common problem of it works on my machine but not on another machine. So that problem it is solved. We also learned how to create a Docker image for our ASP.NET Core Web API project. We have also discussed how to run that image as a container on our local system. At this point of time, our application is packaged properly. Docker can run it successfully on our machine. But there is still one important question that should come to your mind. Right? What is that question? Where should we keep this Docker image so that Azure services can use it? So we are not creating Docker for our own purpose. We are not going to use Docker on our local machine always. We are using Docker means what? How we can manage, how we can use this Docker to deploy our application in Microsoft Azure. The important question is, so if I want to use Docker container in Microsoft Azure, first of all, I need to save my Docker image in Azure, then where exactly? So till now, Docker image exists only inside our local Docker desktop. So we install this one. This is our local Docker desktop. Inside this Docker desktop, right, the image is exist. That is fine for learning and testing purpose, right? As you are going to learn Docker concept, everything that is fine. But in real development, right, Azure App Service, Azure Kubernetes Service, Azure Container, CI/CD pipeline cannot directly access an image that is sitting on our laptop. Guys, remember, if something is available on my personal machine, on my machine, then these Azure services, Kubernetes services, containers, CI/CD pipeline, they cannot access this image from our local machine. So what we need? We need a secure cloud-based place where Docker images can be stored and later pulled by the development services. So what exactly it means? It means we need a secure place where we can store our Docker images. Later on, whoever need that image, they can pull that image. And that secure cloud place, right, in Azure, is called the Container Registry. In Azure, we call this as a Azure Container Registry or ACR. So
Hello,
Azure
sir.
Container Registry
Yeah.
means what? This is the first.
Hello, sir.
Let me complete my explanation. Then I'll take the question. So first of all, what you need to do? Container registry means what? This is the online store where your Docker image is going to be saved. It is so basically you can consider this container registry, or you can say if it is Azure, we called this as a Azure Container Registry. It is very similar to your Docker Hub. In Docker Hub, we are storing our images. I mean, built-in images are already there. Similarly, Azure Container Registry, we are also going to store our images, not in Docker Hub, but in Azure Container Registry. So as simple as you can remember, this is private, secured place where we can store our Azure images instead of storing them on our local machine. If you are storing in your local machine, Docker desktop, that is fine. But this image cannot be accessed by Azure App Service, Kubernetes, right, container, CI/CD, they cannot access. How they can access? Now we need to store them in a place, in a location, in the cloud. And that location in Azure, particularly in Azure, is called Azure Container Registry, or you can also call it as ACR. Clear? Yes? What is your query?
Yeah. Yeah. I was saying that Docker Hub, how does it now come in Docker Hub? Meaning that you don't need Docker Hub.
I will explain that in some time, right? What is the difference between Docker Hub and Azure Container Registry? Why you should not put your image in Docker Hub? That's what I'm going to discuss in some time. Clear?
Yeah. Thanks.
So this part is clear. So what is a Azure Container Registry? This is the secured online, right, secured private storage location for Docker images. Clear?
Panay, Azure Container Registry is basically mainly for the images, or like other we can also store in this.
So it is mainly used for storing that right, container related things. I mean that local right. I mean the Docker image mostly.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, let us try to understand why it is important, right? For example, if you build a image, right, using this command, then you can right, verify that image, right? It is going to be available on your local machine, and you can run this command, right, to run your application. So at this point of time, the image is not automatically available in Azure. Azure App Service cannot say, let me go to Pranay's laptop and pick the image from Docker desktop. That is completely right, not possible. So they cannot come to my personal laptop and pick the image from my Docker desktop. So cloud services needs the image, right, to be available in cloud accessible registry. So local Docker image. So basically now what our main objective? We'll see how we can move. We'll see how we can move our local Docker image to cloud ready Docker image that is nothing but Azure Container Registry. So basically, whatever image we are storing inside our local Docker desktop, how we can move this local Docker desktop images to be a cloud-ready environment, that is called as a Azure Container Registry. Clear?
Yep.
Yes. So now, first of all, we need to understand what is a container registry. We are talking about Azure Container Registry. So before learning Azure Container Registry, first we need to understand what is a container registry, what exactly it is going to store. So a container registry is a storage system for container images. So in simple word, you can say it is an online location where Docker images are uploaded. You can upload, you can push Docker images from your local machine to this registry. You can pull that image from that registry to your local machine. You can provide multiple version of the image, same application, different version. Wherever you want, you can also download them as per your requirement. So all these things are going to be happening and going to be provided by Docker container, right? So for example, when we have previously used images like a hello world in injects, right? So Docker download those images from Docker Hub. So basically, when we are creating a container using Hello World and Inject, so at that time, what is happening? Docker downloads those images from Docker Hub. Docker Hub is also a container registry. So whatever the Docker Hub concept we discussed earlier, that is also a container registry. Similarly, Azure Container Registry is also a container registry which is provided by Microsoft Azure. So this Docker Hub is very similar to our Azure Container Registry. What is their main purpose? Store the images. Store the images means what? You, if you want, you can post, you can pull, you can store different version of the images. How we will do this thing? We will see practically. Clear?
Yes.
Yep.
So, yes. Now, what is container Azure Container Registry? We have already discussed. This is the online Docker image storage location provided by Microsoft Azure. So it is responsible, or it is allows us to store our image securely. You can push local Docker images to Azure. You can pull Docker images from Azure, right? And push means sending from your local machine to Azure. Pull means downloading from Azure to your local machine. You can also maintain multiple version of the same images using tag. For example, v1, v2, v3. What is the importance of a multiple version? We'll also discuss. So use image, once you store the images in Azure Container Registry, then you can use those images at multiple. So for example, Azure App Service. We have already discussed this concept Azure App Service, where we are manually publishing our app code from a G file, or we are pushing from our local machine using the publish method. At the same time, you can also make use of Docker image to do the deployment activity. We will discuss what is Azure Kubernetes Services, container, CI/CD pipeline, and all these things are going to be provided by Azure Container. So in very simple word, Azure Container Registry is a private and secure online storage location for Docker images inside Azure. Clear?
Panay, can you please explain one more time Azure Container Registry?
Sorry?
Can you please explain one more time Azure Container Registry? The last that you have, the last definition that
Tell
you
me.
have.
So you just tell me, first of all, that you just point me, this first point number 1 is clear or not?
Yes.
Point number 2 is clear or not?
Yes.
Point number 3 is clear or not?
Yes.
Point number 4 is clear or not?
Yes.
Then what is remaining?
That you have told me in the last sentence, like the Azure Container Registry is like of CI/CD pipeline and other things like.
See, this is what it is storing the images in the container. I mean, I'm storing the image in the registry. So why we are storing that image? Because we want to use, who is going to use that images? Azure App Service, Azure Kubernetes Services, Azure Container, CI/CD pipeline. How they will use that, what we will see practically,
Okay.
right? So why we are storing this information in the container, in the container registry? Because because in Azure we are going to use these services. I mean, we are going to use this Docker image to do the deployment. And we can deploy in multiple ways. So we have already discussed this Azure App Service, right, for deploying our ASP.NET Core Web API project. That project we have discussed using manual approach. The same thing you can also do, right, using Docker image. How to do this thing, we'll see practically. Clear?
And CI/CD pipeline is basically, we can say
We'll
it is
discuss.
like
We'll discuss.
GitHub
See, we'll
CI.
see right, how to use in CI/CD pipeline, Docker container, Kubernetes, Azure App Service, everything I'm going to show you practically. I don't know why you are in a hurry. How to use this thing practically? Once I explain, once I show you this thing practically, you will get the clarity. Clear?
Yeah.
Right? Whatever mention, whatever I'm showing here, everything I'm going to show you practical. So here, store, push, pull, multiple version, right? That's what I'm going to discuss today. How to use with the Docker, right? Kubernetes and all these things we'll discuss, right, again one by one. So this is what without ACR and with ACR, right? Whatever without ACR, this is not possible, and with ACR, this is possible. So now this is one of the important question you might get in the interview. Can you please elaborate the difference between Docker Hub and Azure Container Registry? Right? If Docker Hub already exists, why do we need Azure Container Registry? That might also another question. See, Docker Hub and Azure Container Registry are both container registers. So container register means that both can store images, but they are commonly used for a different purpose. What is the purpose? The Docker Hub is popular public container registry. Public container registry means what? Now it is commonly used to store and share public Docker images. Public Docker images means which can be used by anyone. Public means anyone can access those images and they can be used in their application. Examples are including, right, Hello World, Inject, Redis, MySQL, Ubuntu, PostgreSQL, right? So these are some of the right public or you can say these are some of the images which is available in Docker Hub. Docker Hub is mainly related to public images, official images, community images, open source images, for basic images, right, for learning, and some common base images. Even in our case also, we have used some common base images. What is this? Is one base image. This is one base image. That is what we have used. So means what? As simple as it is, if anything is publicly available for anyone, put them inside the Docker Hub. Now tell me, you are developing a complete project, right, for your company, any insurance project or any e-commerce project, banking project. Do you want that project source code to be available to everyone, or it should be private to your organization?
No.
Private to my organization.
If you put in Docker Hub, anyone can access. So that is the reason why they are provided this Azure Container Registry. Azure Container Registry means it is securely, it is going to store your image securely, and it is private to your organization. So anyone cannot access the image. Only who have given you access, right? They can only access the Docker image. So that is the reason why, even though Docker Hub is already there, we are going to use Azure Container Registry because of the security. So we don't want to expose our project source code to everyone. We don't
But
want
I think Docker Hub also support private.
Docker Hub is support private, but we can now. So we are going to deploy our application in Azure. Then Azure itself providing that secure mechanism, right? So Azure is basically going to give more security, right, rather than Docker Hub. And second, thirdly, as we are going to use, right, what I can say, application within the Azure itself, then accessing the Docker Hub within the same system definitely going to give you better performance and better maintainability, you can also say, right?
Okay.
Docker Hub is specifically for public images. If you want to store something privately, don't store them inside a Docker Hub. Store them inside your right, a cloud service provider, whatever you are using. Clear? So why right, not for everything? Because I don't want to express my project details, right, to everyone. So now Before proceeding further, you need to understand four things. Registry, we have already discussed. It is the main storage location where Docker images are. Repository means what, guys? Remember, within the registry, for each right service or application, one repository is going to be created. One registry can contain multiple repository, and each repository means what, for each service. For example, this is my Azure registry, right? For my e-commerce application. So inside my e-commerce microservices based project, if it is a microservices based project, you can have multiple services: product service, order service, notification service, right, payment service. Then for each service, it is going to create a repository. Repository, you can consider it is a collection. And this is going to be a collection of what? It is going to be a collection of images, right? So basically, if you want to understand this, so this is our main repository. Registry means main location. So this is where everything is going to be stored. Inside this, what will come? Inside this, what will come? Repository. So repository means what? Now one repository for each service or service. So what exactly it means? It means if I'm having, right, something called one repository for product service, one repository for order service, another repository for payment service, something like this. So you can have multiple repositories. Now, right, what is a repository? One repository per service, and also repository means what? Collection of, it is to, it is going to store, it will store what? It will store, it will store collection of images. That means what? Now for product service, right, right, for product service, it can store, right, image, product image, product image v1 version 1. Similarly, product image version 2. So that is what you can consider. Similarly, in case of a order service. Clear? So basically, what is registry? It is the main storage location where Docker images are going to be stored. And right, repository means it is a logical connection, collection you can consider where, right, it is going to store the images related to one application and one service. And if your application, right, if your project contain multiple services, multiple applications, so you have to get multiple repositories, but each repository going to contain the related images. You can have, right, multiple images, image version 1, image version 2, image version 3. What is image? This is the ready-made package, right, which is going to not only contain the application code, it also contains the runtime environment where your application is going to be run. And a tag means what? This tag is basically give, right, allow you to give a label to your image. So you want to ensure this is my version 1, that is my version 2, that is my version 3. So that version 1, version 2, version 3, you can provide using something called a tag. So how to use all these things practically, let us proceed and understand. Clear? Clear?
Yeah, clear.
Right. So first of all, you need to ensure Docker desktop should be installed and running. So in your case, right, in my case, this is my Docker desktop, which is up and running. That means first point is clear. Second thing, right, you have to ensure Azure CLI should be installed. See, the way we have installed .NET CLI, I mean, when you install .NET SDK, .NET CLI installed, and we have also see, right, how to use your Docker CLI commands. Similarly, you want to install Azure CLI. So Azure CLI means what, right? Once you install Azure CLI, you can use Azure command within the command prompt. Okay, let me show you this thing practically. For example, let me close this one. So I'm using AZ version. So this AZ version means what version of Azure CLI is installed on your machine, that what it is going to display. But guys, remember when you run this command, it will not show you the list and it will give you some kind of error mentioning agent is not recognized. So if Azure CLI is not installed, you can install using this command. Winget install exec IT Microsoft Azure CLI. So this will install Azure CLI on your machine. So once you install, then only you can use Azure CLI command within from your command prompt. Why we need Azure CLI command? Because we need to communicate with Microsoft Azure from our command prompt. As we are going to communicate with the Microsoft Azure from our command prompt, push the images to pull the images, right? So for that purpose, we need Azure CLI command, and that's what you need to, if you want to use, you have to install this one. So first step is clear. How to install? This is install. This is the command. Why we need to install? Because from our command prompt, we want to push the images to Azure, container registry, and we also want to pull the images from ACL. Clear?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Next, you should have your Azure account available. For example, right, currently you can see I have already created my Microsoft Azure account. So you should have your Microsoft account opened. I mean, your Azure account up and running. And that's what we have already discussed, right? How to create account, what type registration services, all these things. So now what I'm going to discuss, right, guys, remember, if you want to use any resources for a particular project, first of all, you need to create a resource group. So basically, I'm going to create a resource group with this name. And that resource group, I'm going to create it within the region Central India, and I'm going to create a register, right? Azure Container Registry, and that registry name is going to be this one. I'm going to create some local Docker image with this name, which we have already created, product management API. Going to create a repository. So this is the registry name, and from that registry, I'm going to create a repository. So you can see registry, this is the main location. Repository means one service and which is going to contain the collection of images. So I'm going to create a two version of the image, Docker image. One is V1, another one is V2. Even I'm also going to create a V3. And once these images are created, right, then I'm also going to create a container. That container is going to be this one. Container internal port number is going to be this one, and host port is going to be this one. This is what I'm going to do. Clear? Clear,
Yeah,
guys?
clear.
But Pranay, in this, where is image?
What is this?
Okay,
What is this?
okay,
This is the local Docker image, but we will create. And again, right, I'm going to store these two different versions. So this is right our actual image on my local machine. But when I will move this image to container registry, I need to provide some kind of information. This is version one. This is version two. I mean, some kind of a tag we need to
okay,
provide
okay.
so that you can differentiate. Okay. So now, first of all, what you need to do, open the project folder, right? How to open the project folder, we have already discussed. So this is my project folder. This command you need to do, and you need to go to the project folder. Second thing, you need to ensure that your image is running locally. I mean, whatever the local image that you have to build. If you have not built, you can build this image. And if it is already available, that is fine. So you can verify Docker images. This is how you can verify. And if the images is not available, you can build the image. Clear? We have already discussed, so I'm not going to discuss this step
Yes, yes.
again, right? How to build the image. So once the image is there, right, you can test whether it is working locally or not. So you can run this one. See, it is showing some error. Why? Now, because whatever the container name we provided, that is already up and running. So you cannot create, right, two container with the same name. So, and to ensure that this container is already up and running. So what is the command, guys? Docker ps. Clear? Clear or not?
Yeah, clear.
This container is already running. That is fine. So basically, what exactly it means? It means now the local right now we are able to create the image from our application. That image, right? Using that image, we are also able to create our container, and that container is working as expected. Now, what is important? How to log in to Azure from the PowerShell. This is very, very important. So for this purpose, what you need to do, first of all, right, use this one. So basically for your device, it will generate one code. Using that code, we can log into Microsoft Azure so that my device can send and receive information and data from Azure. So how to do this thing? Let us try to understand. So open Windows PowerShell. And guys, remember this is any command, right? It is not mandatory that you should go to this folder and directory. Any Windows PowerShell you can open from anywhere, right? You can access this one. For example, I'm running this command, Azure login use device code. So once I execute this one, it is showing me some information. How to log in? Now please visit this URL and enter this code. So now let me go to this URL. Okay. And whatever the code he provided, just copy this code, press the enter button, press the next button. So which account you want to sign in? This is the account, Pranay Kumar 777. Select this one. And are you trying to sign in to Microsoft Azure CLI? Yes. Click on the continue. So once you click on this one, now come to this part and it will retrieving the information and it is saying this one, right? From this account, right? Whatever the account we logged in recently, for that account, how many subscriptions are there? So why it is saying now, based on the subscription, the corresponding operations are going to be performed. If you remember what we discussed from day one, if I'm going to create any Azure, right, any resource group, that resource group must be created under a subscription. Similarly, whatever resources we are going to create, they must be created under one subscription. What is that subscription? By default, you can see star means this is the default one, and only one subscription is there. And what is that subscription number? One. So just press one and enter. If you have multiple subscription, that subscription number you need to enter. Clear?
Yeah.
Right? Just enter the button. So once you click on the enter button, now what is happening? Now this particular Windows PowerShell window is connected to our Azure, right? Our Microsoft Azure account. Now from this window, we can do operation that is going to be make effect right in the Microsoft Azure. Clear?
Yeah.
So once this is done, right? Next, what I need to do, right?
Pranay, can you
Yes.
please repeat once this login part?
What means?
This login part.
See, first of all, tell me, right? Where I want to store the Docker image. What is your main objective? Where we want to store?
In Azure.
Azure.
Azure
Where I need
Container.
to, right? That image I need to build where? Where I need to build that image? In the
In,
Windows PowerShell or command prompt.
yes.
So from the command prompt, I need to push the image, right? For example, whenever I'm using the, right, creating a container, hello world here, inject, at that time, it is communicating with the Docker Hub, downloading the image to my local machine, yes or no?
Yes.
And at the same time, now where I need to communicate? If I'm going to push one image to, or if I'm going to pull the image, then definitely that needs to be performed on Docker Hub or Microsoft Azure.
In Azure.
Azure. Docker Hub, that is public, anyone can
Public.
access.
Yeah.
Anyone can access. But Microsoft Azure, without login, can you access that Microsoft Azure account?
Oh,
Yes or no?
no.
No. So for that purpose, what I need to do, I need to log in. But how I can ensure? Because I'm going to do the operation from the Windows PowerShell. But that operation should be communicated with the Azure account. So for that purpose, what I need to do for this particular Windows right PowerShell window, I need to generate one device code. And using that device code, I can communicate so that, right, if I'm sending some information, Azure will recognize, yes, this is a valid machine. I can accept. So for that purpose, I have to use this AZ login, use device code. So it will generate one device code, and it also provide this URL. So using this URL, using this device code, by following the on-screen method, I just log in. So once I log in, automatically this screen is updating. So it is saying once the login is there, right? I mean, once it communicate, these are the different subscription details. Out of all these subscription details, which subscription you want to use? I want to use the subscription. This is the Azure subscription one. What is the serial number one? That's what I enter. And once I enter, this is what I'm getting. Clear?
Yeah, clear. Thank you.
Right. This is required, right? So now verify the selected. Yes, right. One subscription is there now. So once you are inside the subscription group, next what you need to do, you can close this one. That is absolutely fine. So once you are inside the subscription group, what I need to do? First of all, if I'm going to do the deployment, for doing the deployment, I need to create one resource group for the related resources. Yes or no?
Yes.
Right? Any kind of, if you remember, in our Azure App Services, we have already discussed Azure resource group we created. Why? Because the related resources we need to create inside that resource group. Similarly, if I'm going to deploy the project using Docker, and if I'm going to create the Azure Service Registry, that Azure Service Registry is itself a resource. And that resource needs to be created inside a resource group. So first of all, what I need to do, I need to create a resource group. And for creating a resource group using the CLI command, this is the syntax. AZ group create. So AZ is start for Azure. Group create means it is going to create a resource group. That resource group name is going to be RG Product Management Docker. And that location, it is going to be Central India. That means within this region, this resource group is going to be created. Clear?
Yeah.
Clear? So let me copy this code and paste it here and see whether that resource group is going to be created or not. I'm getting this information, right? ID, this is the ID, location, managed by name, all these things. So now if you come to this one, so we have created this resource group. So select this one, and see whether that resource group is created or not. Yes or
Yeah.
no?
Yes.
That means from our command prompt, by using the command, I'm creating a group in the right Azure. So first of all, you need to create the resource group. So once the resource group is created, if you want, you can verify the list of resource group that are available. For example, I want to use AZ resource AZ group list. So it is going to list the resource, all these resources available within this Azure subscription. Output to table means it is going to display the data in a tabular format. Just press the enter button, and here you can see it is showing this information that there are three resources available. I mean, three resource group is available. That is fine. So once the resource group is created, next what I need to do, I need to register the Azure Container Registry resource provider. See, guys, remember, for some of the services that resource provider by default available, and for some other services, you need to provide the right resource provider. So what is a resource provider? Now, guys, remember, in Azure, every service is managed by a resource provider. That resource provider is nothing but, you can see, you can consider the manager. Manager, for example, if you look at into any, you take any cricketer, any movie hero, or any whatever, so their personal manager is going to be there who manage everything, their day-to-day activities. Similarly, whatever the resource we are going to consume, we are going to create, that is going to be managed by the resource provider. Similarly, sometimes that resource provider already registered if it is very commonly used. Sometimes we need to register. And for Azure Container Registry, right, that resource provider is not by default available. So we need to make sure that resource provider is available. So basically this statement you need to execute, right? That right, container register is a resource provider is going to be available. Say if it is already available, that is fine. If it is not available, then it will ensure that resource provider is registered, so that now we can make use of right, what I can say, all these things, right? All these things means we can create a container registry. Now, once you execute this command, it is not going to register immediately. So if you want to see what is the current status of this register, whether it is registering or registered, so you can see result is registered. So registered means this is registered. Now the corresponding, once the resource provider is registered, now we can consume or we can create the corresponding resource. So how to create a container registry? So what we have done so far? So far what we have done, guys, we have created a resource group. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes or no? Create a resource group. So what is that resource group name? Guys, tell me. This is the resource group we created. Clear? Second,
Yeah.
what we have to register. Register the container registry provider, right? So that's what we have done. What is that spelling? Right, so that is what we have right, register. So next what we need to do, next we need to create the Azure Container Registry. So this is the right, if you look at here, this is the registry, means Azure Container Registry, or you can say this is ACR. This is the main, or you can say uh, the main location where our Docker images are going to be created. So now how we can create this one? So let us try to observe. So for creating a Azure Container Registry, the syntax is this one. So AZ ACR create. AZ ACR create means one. This AZ stands for, this is Azure CLI command. ACR means what? Azure Container Registry. Create means create. So it is going to create a Azure Container Registry. And this Azure Container Registry, guys, remember, this is also a service. This is also a resource. And this resource needs to be created inside a resource group. And what is that resource group in this case? That resource group name is going to be this one. Clear? And when I'm creating any Azure registry, I also need to provide a unique name. That name is needs to be unique. Why? Because that name is going to be part of your login process for pulling the image and pushing the image. So that name must be unique. If it is not unique, it will throw you error. So in this case, that registry name we are providing is this one. So this is going to be my registry name. And again, write SKU basic. So if you remember, whenever you are creating the services, you have to provide the pricing factor. I mean, whether you are going to use a free service, basic plan, I mean that pricing plan, premium plan. So in this case, I'm going with the basic plan, and admin enabled true means admin can do the operations. So this is what I'm going to provide. So in this case, I'm selecting a basic plan for my right, Azure Container Registry. That register name is going to be this one, and it will be created inside this register group. Sorry, inside this resource group. So once you have do this thing, just execute this command, and this should create a right, what I can say, register. So it is taking time. Yes. So it is created, right? So once it is created, it is giving right all the information right about the register. So understanding this information not needed. All right. If you are getting this information, that is more than sufficient. So what is this step means? This step means what? Now Azure Container Registry is created so that we can store our Docker images inside the Azure. So once the register, once it is created, if you want to view how many right? Containers are there, right? You can create 1, 2, 3, any number of Azure registry container is here. So this will not work. This is going to display the list of Azure registries. So only one Azure Container Registry or ACR is going to be there. That name is this one. It is created inside this resource group. The location is this one. Basic plan SKU means that pricing factor. And this is the login server. Guys, remember, this is important. This login server, whatever it provided, this is nothing but whatever the name plus Azure ECR.io. So this is automatically appended. This is the login server name, and we will use this login server name, right, whenever we are going to push the image. Because based on this name, see, you might have a multiple Azure Container Registry. So out of all the registry, where you want to store your Docker image. So that information we need to tell. And for that purpose, we are going to use this one. From this information, it will easily identify, right, where to store the Docker image. So this part is clear?
Panay, what
Yeah.
is the last in dot enabled in the command? Admin enabled.
Yeah, because you want to perform the admin related operation. So basically, this is related to RBAC, role based access control. So admin enabled. Admin means as an admin, whatever what I can say, permissions are provided, you can do everything. Clear?
Okay.
So basically, do you have role based access based RBAC knowledge?
No, no.
Then just ignore this thing, right? So that is very, very important. So role based access control, based on the role, whatever operations you are allowed to do, you are not allowed to do, that what it is going to be. So admin enable means we are
Okay.
giving the admin power and right to this particular login functionality, and whatever operation you want to do, you can do. For example, I want to delete, I can delete. Why? Because admin enable is going to be there. Clear, guys? Okay.
Yeah.
And here, what is important? Important is this login server URL. Just copy this login server URL. So this is what we are going to use. So what is next thing? Login server URL. This is what we will use to send our Docker images cloud. So now, before moving further, what I can say, uh, before moving further, we need to ensure one thing, right? What is that thing? What should be the Docker image name? So the Docker image name is composed of a few things. For example, now. So now you just tell me, okay, so let me go to this one. See, this registry we created, yes or no? Yes or no? Azure Container Registry we created. And if I'm going to store the images, they need to be stored inside a repository. Repository means it is a collection of images. So now what I need to do make you understand is how you can provide the image name. That image name, how you are going to provide. See, first of all, what is your SCR login server URL plus the repository name plus the tag. These three things is nothing but the combination of these three thing combination is nothing but your full Docker image name. For example, what is the ACR login URL? This is the ACR login URL. So that what you need to provide. Then you have to provide the repository name. Any name you can give, product management API, my product management API, any name you can give. And this is the version 1 image. That's what I need to specify. Similarly, I can create version 2, version 3 for the same product management API. And if I'm creating multiple versions, then all these versions are going to be created inside this repository. This repository name you can give it. Clear? So what is this? Now this is going to be your login server URL. This is going to be your repository name, and this is the version. And this is fixed, and that what you need to get from here. And the remaining two things you can give anything. Clear? Clearer?
Pranay, can't we create like Azure App Service from Azure portal.
See, you just tell me where you want to send the data.
In Azure Container.
So you are right going in a wrong direction. So we are going to send the image. Who will build the image? Who will push the image first? Tell me.
Local from local machine.
So that is local machine means what? From our Windows PowerShell or command prompt only we are going to do this thing.
Right. But
That is
my question, my question is that earlier as we created.
You just tell me, oh, right, without this URL, how you can pull your image? How you can push your image?
Suppose we are creating resource group and Azure
Resource
that
group,
container and
I'm telling resource group, you can create there. Azure
okay and
registry, you can create there. That is fine. But when you
okay,
are going to perform the operation,
yeah,
that's what you need to do from your right Windows Power Shell.
yes,
That
right,
is what I'm going to see. So till now, so this creation, right? See, you can go to Azure portal and you can create this one, right? And
right,
right once you create this, right, what I can say registry group, or you can say, right, once this is done, then right, you need to do the operations. And for doing this operation, this is not possible to do from Azure portal. Why? Because image is available on my local machine. From my local machine only, I need to send the image to Azure
right,
portal. For that purpose, what is the full image name? That what we need to identify. So this thing, right, is nothing but your login server URL. This is going to be the repository name, and this is the keyword. Clear? So yes, if you want to create the Azure Container Registry from the Azure portal, that's what you can do. That's what you can create. So once you create, then what is our main intention? Our main intention to get the login server URL. So once you got this URL, whether you create the registry from your Windows PowerShell or whether you create that from the like what I can say Azure portal, that doesn't matter. What is matter once you create what is the login server URL? That's what you need to get. Once you get this, remaining operations right are going to be performed from your Azure right from your local machine using command prompt. Clear?
okay,
Now. Now, what I need to do? Now, I need to communicate with the container registry. So basically, from your local machine, you want to do the operation. I mean, you want to push the image, pull the image from the Azure Container Registry. So for that purpose, you need to log into your Azure Container Registry. What is the name? Right. What is the name we provided for our container? This is the name. So what I need to do, AZACR login, name this one. So basically this is the statement that what I need to execute. So once I execute this statement now, right, I'm logging to Microsoft Azure portal and I can do operation on this registry. Login success. Login success means now you can do the operation on this registry. Clear? So for login, I'm going to use this one. But when I'm going to push or pull images, I have to use this URL. Clear? Clear or not?
Yeah, okay.
Now what I'm going to do, now currently our local image name is this one. So product management API dot images. So for example, if you go to this Docker desktop, so images. So this is the image tag is this one. Or the otherwise, right? If you open Windows PowerShell, another window, if you open, and here if you type Docker images, then it is also showing me that image name is this one. So this is going to be our local image, and we want to move this local image from our application to Docker registry. So how we can do this thing? So for that purpose, what I need to do, I need to prepare the fully qualified name of the image. So here you can see what is the syntax. The syntax is this one. So here Docker tag, and this is going to be my local image name, and I have to provide the fully qualified image name. So this is nothing but our login server URL, any name for your repository. and the tag is going to be v1. So basically this statement means what? Now in this case, guys, remember what exactly it means. It means I'm not creating a new image on my local machine. So this operation means what? I'm not going to create a new image. So Docker tag creates another name for an existing image. It is not going to create a new image. Guys, remember, this is not going to create this Docker tag means it is not creating a new image. For example, if you create one .NET object, if you create another variable and store that .NET object, so in that case, okay, let me show you this thing practically. So this is my product controller, right? So in this case, so this is one DTO. So this DTO instance I created, obj1. So in this case, I just specify this product DTO1. Now what I'm doing here, I'm creating product response DTO obj2. And here what I'm doing, I'm referring this one, obj1. So in this case, how many objects are going to be there in the memory?
Two.
Basic C# knowledge. How many objects are going to be there in the memory?
One.
One. And that is nothing but when this statement is executed, this is going to create a memory in the right RAM. And that memory is going to be referred by this variable and this variable. So here obj2 and obj1 both are pointing to the same memory location. Means what? Object is available once, but two reference variable are going to be there, which is pointing to the same object
Same
reference.
object.
Am I right?
Yes.
So in the same case, now whenever I'm providing a tag means what? It is not going to create a new image. Tag means, Docker tag means, this Docker tag means what? Now this is my old image name. From this old image name, I'm creating a reference that is pointing to the old image. Clear?
Yes.
Right? And why I'm creating this image name? Because this is similar to, this is what Azure want. Azure, if you want to push one image, then that image name should follow this standard, right? What is your login server URL? This is the repository name, and this is what. And for local, this is just another image reference. Image reference means or whatever the actual image that is referred by this this name. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to execute this command. So not this one. So here I'm executing this one. So another image is created. Now so this one. So in local machine, how many images are there? If you come to here also, these two are there. But what is the
True.
difference here you need to observe? The difference is, right, if you observe, what is the tag? By default, this is the latest tag. If you do not provide anything, by default, the tag is latest. But here, what is the tag?
V1.
V1.
Why V1? Because we provided this one. This is going to be the tag, and this is going to be your product name, and this is the tag name. How you can ensure that both are belongs to the same image based on the image ID? So these two images, whatever I'm showing here, is this two images having the same image ID?
Yes.
Yes.
So same image ID means what? Same image, but two references are going to be there. So these two names pointing to the same image. And why we created this image? Because this is what we need, right? When we are going to push the image to Docker. So now, so once this is done, next what I need to do, I need to push the image to Azure Container Registry. So for that purpose, what I need to do, I need to use my Docker command. So Docker push and whatever the name and the tag. So is there any right image with this name available? Yes, so product management ACR, product Azure ACR .io product management API copy. Tag is this one. So just copy this value, right? Paste it here and v1. So this is what I'm providing. So once I provide this statement, what will happen? Now it will push the image. Okay, now come to here where your login is success. So just press the enter button. So it is again, it is going to push the image in a layered architecture, layered format. Sir, what do you mean by layered? See, in our case, right, if you go to the Docker file, this is going to be our right final runtime. So in final runtime, each statement, whatever you written here, it's nothing but a layer. Each statement, each line is going to be one layer. So it is going to send the data in the same layer, right? Whatever you have done here, right? So, okay, let me open this one. So that layer means downloading the runtime, sending right application code. That is going to be done one by one. And once everything is done, you can see this data is going to be there. So that means what? Now that Docker registry is available, and to that Docker registry, one container, one repository is created, and to that repository, right? What I can say, our image is being pushed. So how to verify that repository? You can verify that repository using, right, what I can say, Azure portal, Azure Labs. You can verify using right, Azure CLI command. For example, if you want to verify, right, how many email, right, repository list. So first of all, you just tell me what is this? This is my container. So within this container, how many repositories are there? That's what I want to see. So Azure ACI repository list. So this will list me all the repositories which is available within this right, Azure Container Registry. So currently, how many repositories are there? In currently, how many repositories? Only one repository is going to be there. What is that repository name? Product Management API. So now within this repository, how many images are there? That's what I want to see. How I can verify this thing, right? How I can verify. So for that purpose, I need to execute this command. So here you can say Azure repository. So earlier list, and now it is going to show the tags. And this show tags, it is going to display the list of tags, which is, I mean, that different version that is available within this repository. So how many images are there? Currently only one image is going to be there with the version V1 within this repository. Clear? Yes or no?
Yeah,
So this statement is going to display the list of a repository, and this statement, whatever we written, it is going to list the list of our tags, right, which are available within this repository. And this repository is available, right, within this, what I can say, ACR, Azure Container Registry. So how we can verify the same in, right, what I can say, Azure portal. So the process is going to be same. Go to the home, select a container registry, select this one. So we have created one container registry. This is the name, and this container registry is created within this resource group. Just click on this one. So once you click on this one, right, go to the service and the repositories. So click on this is repositories, and here, right, this is going to be my container registry. Within the container registry, I can have a multiple repository. Currently, only one repository is there. Just click on this one. So once you click on this one, now you can see one image is going to be there, and that image is tagged with V1. Clear?
Yes.
Right. So basically now that image is available on the cloud itself. Now what I want to do is right now that image is available on the cloud. So what I want to do is how to pull that image from the cloud and create a container. So like that hello world NG6, what we discussed earlier, that image is available in the Docker Hub. We need to download that image and we need to create a container. And at the same time, now what I'm going to show you how to download the image from the Azure registry and how we can create a container from that image. So first of all, what I'm going to do, remove the ACR tagged image from the local machine. So currently in my local machine, you can see you have multiple options. You can use this command, right? You can use Docker RMI command to remove the image. Other option is that directly you can also remove the image here, right? So just delete and it will delete the image right from your Docker desktop. So once you image only one image, you can see here it is showing only one image. And the same, if you want to verify here, you can also verify. You can see only one image it is showing here. That means what? Currently, that tagged image, that ACR tagged image is not available on my machine. So what I want to do is, so now I want to pull the image from the Azure Container Registry. Guys, remember what I mentioned earlier, whenever you are going to pull or do the pull operation and push operation, you have to use the right login server URL. So now you can see I'm going to use the same login server URL, pull the image. So how, what is the syntax in a Docker pull? Then you have to provide the right registry logger service URL. And after then, what is the right, what I can say repository? And from this repository, what is the version? So now if you come to here, this is going to be product management ACR 226. This is my repository. From this repository P1. That's what I mentioned here. So this is going to be my service URL. This is going to be my repository, and within this repository, this is the version of the image that what I want to download. So how you can do this thing, come to this part and then execute this command. So in this case, you can see pulling digest status. So once you got this thing, now verify whether this is available. So now you can see in the Docker desktop it is showing. And even if you write execute, again, you can see that image is also available on my local machine. So once you pull the image from the Docker Hub, now you can run the pulled image locally. So for example, I want to run this command. So now execute this one. So this should create the container on your local machine. And now you can perform the operation again. And this time, how we have performed? Now this time we download the image from the Azure Container Registry. And from that image, we create a container, and that container is also working as expected. Clear? So what is the flow? Now local Docker image. You should have one local Docker image that you need to provide some tag, ACR tag you can consider. Then you need to push the image to ACR. Then you can pull the image from ACR. ACR means Azure Container Registry. And once you pull the image, you can run the container locally again. Clear?
Yep.
And if you want to verify whether that container is running or not, you can also execute this docker ps command. So currently that container is running. Clear?
Yeah, clear.
Now, how to stop or remove the test container? For example, you want to stop. So this is what we have already discussed. The way you are stopping the container, you can stop. If you want to remove the container, you want to use this right command. And so once you remove the right container, if you want to remove the image, you have to use this RMI command. Clear?
Yeah, clear.
Right. Suppose push an updated image version to ACR. Suppose what we have done. So we do some changes in our application. We add a new controller. We make some bug fix. We implement some business logic. We modify the response format. And after doing this, right, what I need to do, I need to create a new version of the image so that, right, both versions are going to be available, version V1, V2. If V2 went wrong, I can roll back to version 1. So we should not update the version, right, with the latest. For every changes, we need to create a different version. Right? So how we can do this thing? So let us try to observe. So for example, now I'm going to create another version image, right? So V2. So go to here. I'm building, right? I'm creating a Docker image, right? Basically, this is the local image. From this local image, I'm tagging this V2. So now one image is going to be created. So now if you look at this, so currently how many images it should show? 3 images. So this is latest, this is V1 and this is V2. So this V1 we have already pushed to Docker Hub. Sorry, to Azure Container Registry. Now this is my latest changes. The latest changes are containing by this V2. And this V2 again we want to push to Docker Hub, container. So how we can do this thing? Now, again the same concept. Use this push command. and this should push the image to Azure Container Registry, right? So again, you can see now if you come to this part and refresh this one, it should show V1 and a V2. V1 and a V2. Clear?
Yeah, clear.
So now, right, verify, you can verify this thing. And if you want, you can pull and run a specific image. For example, if you want to pull the V1, you can pull like this. If you want to create a Docker, you can do this. If you want to pull the V2, you can pull this one. And if you want to create a container with V2, then you can also create the same. So basically now you can have multiple versions, V1 running on different port, V2 running on different port, right? If V2, which is containing the latest change, something went wrong, then you can also roll back to V1 because that V1 image is also available. Clear?
Yeah, clear.
This is what, right? View repository tag details. So I mean, whatever the repository you created, and how many tags are associated. If you want to see, you can use this command, right? To overview all tags inside one repository, right? Whatever all tags are available. For example, if you want to execute this command, right? So it not this one. So this is what I have already shown you in the what I can say Azure portal. So the same thing you can also see here. So V1, V2. So okay, let me clear this one. It should show V1 and V2. Yes. And that is what I have already shown you. So this is all about, right, guys? If you want to delete a specific tag, you can delete. But at this point of time, don't delete it. Whatever the images we push to Azure. In the next chapter, tomorrow, what I'm going to show you, how you can manage the deployment activity in Microsoft Azure from Docker image. So earlier, what we have discussed, how to do the manual deployment from our machine publishing or by creating a zip file, right? So how you can avoid that manual deployment activity, but rather than doing this manually, how you can do the same thing using Docker image. Clear?
Yeah, clear.
That's what we will discuss tomorrow. And that will be the last session of Docker. Then we'll discuss Kubernetes and Azure Kubernetes services. Clear?
Yeah,
Thanks.
Anyone
thanks so
having any
much.
question? Anyone having any more question? Okay. Thank you, guys.